Good morning, Houston. You're listening to KPFT 90.1, and this is Sports Talk with Casey and John. Good morning, John.
Hey, T, all right.
How you
So,
doing?
a lot in the sports world, a lot in Washington, a lot going on.
Oh, a lot going on in Washington.
Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah.
How do you like that, man? That's crazy. The NBA kind of taking hold of that, and
The shame of what happened in Washington.
oh, that's a shame. That's
But
a
yeah,
real fiasco.
it's
There was people that died. Now, a lady got
four,
shot in
four.
the.
No, I
Four
mean,
people. Yeah.
hopefully, we got facial recognition. I mean, if any casino has facial recognition, I'm sure the state capitol's got facial recognition. I mean, everyone that was involved needs to be taken care of. I mean, legal
That and
actions
finally,
need to take care of. That's trespassing, at least.
finally,
The
yeah.
public building at a certain point, but when you get to those chambers and you don't have permission, that is trespassing, and is that on a federal property?
Well,
That's
not only
probably
that,
3 years at
worse. It's
least.
almost, somebody said, it's like it's a terrorist attack on the Capitol. The heck, you know. And then Doc Rivers, mentioned, well, see the situation, how it's handled different, white people, black people. Oh man, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, the truth of the matter is, we'll never find out because
Yeah.
there's a difference between the Black Lives Matters movement. They
Yeah.
wouldn't have done that. It's a peaceful movement. We're looking for peace. When we're
Yeah.
talking about Black Lives Matters, what they
I was
were
thinking
doing,
about
they
that
were
the other
not looking
day.
for peace. Yeah. So I mean,
That's a,
truth of the
yeah.
matter is, we'll never know because BLM wouldn't have done that. It's like, but this is what happens. This is what's been building up. I've loved the way that the NBA has been handling it. I love how they continue to
I don't
use their
know.
platform.
You know
You
what?
know,
But they're complaining about the problem and the things that happen. You don't fix problems focusing on the bad things that are happening. That's not how you fix the problem. The problem, people need to be educated on how to deal with the police, and the police can't be portrayed as the bad people. They're not the bad people. You need police, so you can't have these folks say the police. No, these are individual situations in individual states that happen, and there's a lot of good stuff that happens. And if the celebrities would get behind the police and they can work together as one, and it can be portrayed not as the police are, I mean, it's ridiculous. If you don't watch the media and you look at it and you don't really know anything, you would think, oh my God, when you see a police officer, they're making you afraid of a police officer, which without it, there's no control in society. And most police officers are good people. We're looking at like less than what, take 1% of the police force that's creating these bad situations and murder situations, but it's less than 1%. But it's being portrayed as that's the police department. So they need to fix that and go after getting behind the police. Black Lives Matter needs to support the police and understand that it escalates and things happen because of poor education and how to deal with that. And it goes both ways.
Hold on, and we're getting a
but the
little
public
too
needs
political
education.
here. But the matter of
Yeah.
fact is, what you're talking about is what they're talking about. They're not talking about defunding the police. They're talking about reform, and on any part of reform is education, because if you have to reform anything, something went wrong, have to educate yourself what is going wrong, how do we fix this properly. That is part of
Those
any kind
people
of
don't.
reform.
It's just I don't think it's.
Well,
I don't think if you had a coach trying to fix this problem, they're just not doing it right. They're
well,
not. I don't hear it.
well, right
I don't
now we
hear it.
know they're not
Everybody's
doing it
focused on
right
the things that are
because,
happening, and they're not fixing the problem between the police department
well,
and society.
we know.
They're separating it.
We know that because, well, right now we have a president who literally hasn't done anything in 4 months.
He doesn't help the matters at all.
Well, and that is the main point. I mean,
he doesn't help it at all. His statements, the way he backs it up. I mean, he's creating chaos. And that was one good thing that happened. At least now there will be a transition of a cohesive transition of power now. He
Right.
made the final statement. So that's good.
And now things could actually
Yeah.
start moving forward. I mean, we've been stuck in a state of uncertainty for a while, and that this was just the culmination of that other side coming to terms of it. And it's a shame that is what happened, but now hopefully we can move forward, and we're going to have to move forward with sports. Like I said, we have a lot of sports going on. We got a little deep there for a little bit. Let's
get into the sports
in the sports
we didn't
world
even
here
mean to get
in
into
Houston.
this.
In Houston, we got a lot of stuff going on. So we got a lot of things going on. We got, we got some Houston Rockets news. We got, the Texans season is over.
Yeah.
But the off season has just started. We're starting to make some moves. We'll talk about that, and then we'll end on a little bit of an MLB discussion and see what happens. All right. So let's talk about the Rockets first. Last week we were talking about we want to look for effort and see if the effort's there.
Right.
We lost the last two games. So in the week's time, we haven't won. But I don't think it's beyond effort. Were you able to catch any of those games?
I saw a little bit. I listened to a little bit of ESPN. Harden didn't have a good game this last time. It happens every now and then. But a lot of people are talking about his conditioning, and he doesn't look good. He doesn't look like he's physically in shape, even though he doesn't have one of these, Adonis bodies. He's not known for that anyway. But he's a little heavier and a little more apparently physically, where he's not in the best shape of his life. So, but effort, I'd say it's there. And that's what we were talking about, effort. So,
and yeah, I don't think it was effort. Like I said, his shape could have been better. I mean, come on, yeah. I mean, but sometimes, like I said, when I was watching, one time it was lack of 3-pointers, and it wasn't just him. It was basically on team wide. We just were not shooting well. We weren't. It wasn't like we were going back to isolation ball. It wasn't like we weren't moving the ball. We're up tempo. We're still up tempo, but we're not into the isolation. We're about moving the ball. We're about making the defense move around, make switches, trying to get them off foot, or trying to get them give you something, and then you just take it. And that's what we've been doing. But we've just been playing some tough teams. I mean, Denver Nuggets, their center, triple double of 19 points, 18 assists, 12 rebounds. That's insane. When you got your center pulling those numbers, 18 assists, probably at least half of those are 3-pointers. And that's at least 27 points, right there. I mean, and then another game, it was rebounds. I mean, we're missing Christian Wood. We had a great game out to Marcus Cousin. He had 14 rebounds, only 8 points, but we're still struggling a little bit on that 3-pointer range. You look at our stats, we're middle of the league. I mean, we're normally number 1 or 2 in points scored, 3-point percentage. We're usually on the top. We're just 20
winning games. Yeah.
Are you worried? We're in game 6. We're 2-4.
Yeah, I'm worried because I think Harden's going to move on, and without Harden, you're not winning with Harden. What are you going to do without him? I don't think we're going to be in the top 8 for sure, unless you get somebody that can come in and play big ball. So, I'm worried. I mean, if I wanted a team that's going to be exciting, and I mean, we're spoiled here in Houston. Let's admit it. We're spoiled with being the top team one year, a couple of years ago, to being the second best team, and then this last year, the third or fourth best team, and now we're going to be out of the conversation as far as even having the team. So, is it concerning to me? Yeah, it is what it is. So.
I don't think I'm concerned quite yet. I think we got a good team. We played 2 games that we've had our full roster available to us. And we won those 2 games. Those 2 games are our 2 wins, and the rest of the time we haven't had our full roster. It's hard to play spread offense, passing the ball around. We need fresh legs, which makes Eric Gordon, a key part of being our 6th man, making that decision of removing him from the starting rotation, putting House in there, who hasn't really played as good as he should have played, this whole season so far.
How,
But you need that spark. Those games we won are even in the games where we lose, except for, I believe, Wednesday's game, our bench outshined the opponent's bench. They come in and it's usually we make up a distance, or we're keeping it close. It's not like when our bench comes in, oh, we can't do nothing. It's like we need Harden. I don't see that. I think we're competitive. What I do see is I still haven't seen Harden used to cut to the basket, like in the back door. I haven't seen him score that way. We know he can. Is that, do you see that as maybe a reference to his effort? Is he not willing to run a back door to catch the pass? Because sometimes he's got a huge lane. He's on the
he's
wing.
been known to not do that, but isn't that, that he doesn't do that. And that's part of the problem.
So that is a part of an effort.
Yeah, he doesn't do, that type of ball. So, if you have a coach that wants to push that kind of ball, that's not what he's done, or he has a concern with doing, especially now if he wants out. So he's not doing the movement on his end. If everybody's moving and you're not, unless you have a game plan for that,
Hey, I'm assuming if I'm an elite scorer and I'm looking for any way I can score that I can, and an opponent is giving me a clear lane to the rim, and I got my point guard, or I got Eric Gordon or someone who can pass the ball sitting at that 3-point line, clearly see me running effortlessly to the basket, he's not going to hit you. Of course, he's going to hit you. I mean, he's done it before. But back when he was the 6th man on OKC, I guess a lot more is required of you.
Yeah,
he was doing that all the time. You got Kevin Garnett, got Russell Westbrook on the outside. He cuts to the basket in the back door. Easy points. And if you want to still make 40 points or higher in this game, and you're not just running down the court shooting threes, you got to go to that rim. And one of the ways you got to get to that rim any way you can. No, so you're seeing this as possibly an effort. So would you trade James Harden this season?
For who? No, I don't. I'll say it again. You don't trade James Harden unless you get a deal. I'd rather sit him on the bench or just have him not play than to let him have his cake and eat it too and give him away for pennies on the dollar.
Do you think his play right now is?
No, I think
we're sitting him, or it's
he has. I need to watch more. I said I'd watch this week. I didn't see a whole lot. I need to watch more. When we say attitude too, his attitude to not answering questions. I mean, obviously he wants to leave, so his heart's really not in it, even though it might look like, his effort's there. But we can't tell what play is being run. If we had an inside source saying, look, he's supposed to be doing that and he's doing this, which could be happening or, it could not be happening. But no, you got to get a deal for him. You have to. If I was Fertitta and he's a businessman, he's not going to let a Bill O'Brien deal go through with Harden like that. No way.
Well, you got a new
So,
GM. I mean, he's got to be working on something. You know, he does have
right.
a few assets coming up. You know, nothing really high up there. It's not like
Yeah.
we're looking at a top 3 or top 5 unless we trade our 2 top, you know, first round picks that we have to move up to a top 3 in one of these years coming up, which could be a possibility. Um, Good thing is we do have college sports kind of getting into a normalcy, you know, for a while
Well, you
there.
got the big game coming up, and the word is, Ohio State. Well, they got the quarterback Fields, who, I don't know if he's going to play or he's definitely hurt, bruised, not broken ribs, but badly bruised ribs.
Yeah,
Which
I
is
mean,
painful.
in college football, they for a while there, COVID was hitting them, and it still is, quite a bit, but it
Yeah.
wasn't as drastic as it was several months ago, you know, for college football because it looked like, you
And
know,
Ohio State's missing because
entire
of the
teams
COVID, a
just
bunch
having to
of
drop
defensive
out.
players.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for this game, I don't think it'll be that competitive with what's going down. So
Right.
that's a shame. I mean,
And
I'd
so
like to see it be competitive, but
let's hope the basketball season can remain going as the way it has, you know,
right.
in college wise. That way, full year of development. You know, we've had seen the draft. It was a tricky draft for the NFL, you know, last year and actually, you know, in the NBA this year because, you know, we got shortened seasons. Some, you know, a lot of players had to have tapes. You know, our third or one of their top 3 picks was someone that, you know, one of the Ball brothers, you know, who was playing in
Yeah.
what, Australia or Lithuania or
Yeah.
something, you know.
Yep.
So we don't know what we're going to get, you know, as long as we can continue going this, that GM needs to start working, you know, and he's going to have to think. It's like, well, when you talk, you have to get something back for Harden. Well, are you wanting just a whole bunch of picks? Hopefully start a rebuilding process. Because if, like you said, if you lose a Harden, you're technically in a rebuilding process, no?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, and then, Cousins came here. You got Wall, you got Wood, you got a good base. If Harden was all in, I mean, everybody would be talking about this team like, top 4. Never know. But with Harden on, thinking of going, I mean, we become like number 8. And right now, with the way his attitude and everything, we're less than that right now, and it's going to continue that way. So sometimes when you have a bad, a bad chip or a bad, it's better to let it go. But I wouldn't let it go. I would sit it on the bench or something. I don't know. I mean, these guys get along. It's a tough situation for the Rockets. It's a tough situation for the coach.
The truth of the matter is Harden is a franchise player. He is our franchise player. He's not going to really be able to go anywhere else and be that franchise player, at least not for a while. You know, it takes years to be with an organization, we're building around that guy.
Yeah, if
You know,
he
that's
goes
what it
somewhere,
means.
but he already knows he's going to go where there's Durant and somebody or this.
Well,
to
and
win a
if
championship.
he goes, we don't have a franchise player. You know, it's not Wall.
Right.
Wall is a supporting character at
Right.
this part of his career. Cousins is a supporting character at this career.
Right.
We have no
Right.
piece.
Right.
We're not going to decide let's build around Wall. You know,
Right.
that's not an option.
Right.
You know, we're drafting somebody and we're building around them now.
Yeah.
And I just don't see us being able to get a franchise player directly for Harden. I don't see us being able to trade. You know, I'm just throwing this out here. It's like, well, Knicks, we'll give you Harden for like RJ Barrett, or a young player who's in like year 2 or 3, that's like defining themselves as a piece that they're building around. I just don't see us being able to get that straight out for anybody out there. If we get rid of Harden, we're in a rebuilding process. So look 5-7 years.
If we don't get somebody big for him, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And
then
other than the Rockets and the NBA, you know, what have you noticed that have standed out so far in the season?
With the Rockets or with the
Or
NBA?
in the NBA in general. I mean, there's a lot of teams that have been quite shocking. I mean, we saw Steph Curry go off, I think, earlier this week, and he put up some big numbers.
Some big numbers. How about Beal the other night, 60 points?
Yeah,
and then he lost the game, and he's 1-6 when he scores 60 or more points, which he's not happy about. I'm happy to see that he understands that. I'd rather not score that many points and win the game. So obviously he's not getting any help there, but he's
Well, he has the help there. He has Russell Westbrook there. Well, let's remember that.
Oh, yeah, Westbrook, yeah.
That's where Wall came from, and we knew he's a scorer, but
the 76ers. Yeah.
The Washington has been known to actually just let a lot of their talent go. I mean, for a while there, they were drafting nothing but like small forwards, and they were very talented small forwards.
Right.
And I believe they finally got another one, but it's like they let like 2 or 3 of them go, and they became starters on other teams and sixth mans. They were solid players. It's just they didn't get enough pieces to fulfill what they were doing. They had, John Wall. Yeah, he wasn't healthy all the time, but they had someone like Beal who was that franchise player. John Wall, they drafted. He was their franchise player. Beal came along when they year 2 or 3. Well, he's our franchise player. So they tried to build around him, but they didn't do their job. And
you were asking me. I do like the way the NBA is. It's pretty diversified right now as far as each team. I don't think I like you don't know. There's so many teams that are pretty evenly matched. We don't have the Warriors domination with Kevin Durant and
you have the Magic. You have Orlando Magic 6-2 right now. I mean,
yeah, a lot of teams, a lot of good teams out there. A lot of evenly, You think LA is a big favorite here to repeat? What do you think?
They can stay healthy, and right now, let's remember that we have had a shortened season, or shortened off season, very shortened time to actually get back into shape. So Harden, we can forgive a little bit of that, but instead of partying, you should be hitting the cardio maybe. But when things start averaging out, people get back into routine, people get in the flow if they can stay healthy. And I think the Lakers, LeBron James has usually been able to manage his health to be successful when he needs to be successful. So he'll be healthy enough to get himself to the playoffs and will his team to the part where he needs to be healthy enough to come back. So I do believe that the Lakers, will repeat. I mean, they are missing a little of the few pieces that they had before, but they're looking strong. How about you? Lakers still?
No, I don't think. I mean, you got Anthony Davis. He just signed that contract, so between him and what they have around, it's strong. I think the Miami Heat, still have a really good shot, like they did the other, Boston. It's pretty. Well, the Warriors lost Thompson, so that would have been nice to see Curry and Thompson back together and dominating there a little bit. But I mean, you still got to go with LeBron and what they did, especially the second year together like this with the team still pretty intact.
Okay, so before we move on from the NBA, let me ask you this question. If a team like the 76ers get James Harden, are they number one contender?
Oh, they're in I'd say they're right next to him. I say they're back for sure.
I mean,
They know that
let's
too.
say if Brooklyn, who's right now 4-4, because they started off strong, said, "We're good. Why would we need James Harden?" Now, 4-4 is a little bit different. If you add James Harden to that mix, does that make them with Kyrie Irving, Kevin
Well, once
Durant, James
again,
Harden?
yeah. Look at when LeBron went to Miami. They didn't win it the first year. It took them time to put that team to, and you don't know when you put superstars together, the chemistry might not work. There's too many egos there. So are they willing to work with each other and make it work with the talent that they have there? I kind of went through that in tennis with the staff, where I had all these great players that were coaches now, and the egos. I get them into a room, and one guy was top 30 in the world, the other guy's one of the top players in the United States, and the other guy got to like 100 in the world. Well, why is he going to make $100 an hour? I want $100 an hour. I just, it wouldn't work. Trying to get them together. I had Jeff Tarango in the mix too. I was going to bring him in, but I was like, well, okay, we're going to run it like this, and just people, no, I deserve this. He can't be on that tier. So sometimes too many egos in the room. You got to know. You have to have the right balance, right yin and yang, and then you have to have the coach that can put that together and make that happen.
At this point, James Harden should be actually forgetting about his ego. At this point of his career, 8, 10 years, probably more, it's time to, do you want to win a ring, or do you want to be Mr. Good Stats but never won a championship? Do you want to be Dan Marino, or do you want to be, Terry Bradshaw? I mean,
Wow.
there's a difference,
Well,
or
you're hitting home with that one.
I mean, at a certain point you got to look at it, and that's the point. He goes to the Nets. He's not the number one person. Durant is the number one person, and that might hit home a little bit more than it does for him because, well, OKC, that's how he started off. Well, he was a bench player and Durant was a starter, so who knows? But like you said, if it's an ego problem, he's got to set that aside because it's either ego or a ring. You want to have a perfect season, or you want to have a Super Bowl win. You can't have both anymore. He's past that point, so he's got to make a decision. All right, you're listening to KPFT 90.1, and we've been talking about basketball. John, you were just about to say something?
No, just, D'Antoni's there, Morey's there, and with the 76ers. It's just kind of like a destination spot for him. I think it's just a matter of time. Those guys will work it out, and I think that's where he'll wind up.
And I agree with you, and I think it's just all about they don't have the assets to trade for him right now. It's like, they can give us all their picks, but they can't give us enough picks right now. And maybe if the season goes well, they might have someone on their bench that shows they got talent, and who knows? Or let's get 5 teams available and we'll just get 5-team picks. Yeah, who knows? But let's move on to the NFL. The Texans season is over.
Yeah.
Good, I guess, so we can stop watching games and being disappointed. But the truth of the matter is, it's one of those seasons where it's like, we did strange off season. We didn't have as much practice as we needed. We had a new play caller, who needed more practice. We had a defensive new scheme that's, I don't think everyone was behind, and that kind of maybe lost people's efforts and their discipline to actually do what they needed to do to come out and be ready for the game. But 6 or 8 games were lost by under a touchdown. Yeah. I mean, you win those games, and we're having a different discussion. We're in the playoffs. So it's not much missing from that defense. We were talking about how we never liked the offense. The offense needed to be more dynamic. But the truth of the matter is our offense did keep us in the games. I think what we were truly missing is the turnovers. You know, their
Yes, there
defense
was,
is
yeah,
on the field so
true.
much, but if they get those turnovers, get our offense back out there, well, I was always been looking at the stats of David Johnson. He averaged over 4 point something yards per carry.
Right.
So on paper, he was doing enough to run the ball 4 times to get 3 times and get 12 yards. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's first down. I mean, but the truth is, he's only had a half or a quarter of the amount of carries he usually gets. Yeah, he only had 500 yards. Well, he only carried the ball 100, less than 120 times. If
Yeah.
he carried the ball like everybody else is carrying it 200 and something times, yeah, he'll have 1,000 yards.
No, there was
Our
no
run
holes.
game would have been
He wasn't
successful.
going for 500 yards. It was a joke. There was no holes. The offensive line. Casey, I can't believe that you opened this out without talking about Nick Caserio. Can't
Well,
believe
we're
you
going to
started
get
off.
there. We're going to
We're
get
going
to that. We have to talk about the end of their
2020.
season.
That's big
That
news.
is the
I think
that is the next
Canes are
season.
destined now for greatness again with Nick Caserio.
I don't know. Maybe I was trying to I'm not super. I don't think I'm super happy with it, but
yeah,
that's probably why I didn't start with it.
That. I think that was their main guy. They knew they had him, just like I believe now that he knows already who, and like you said, the enemy, you know, he hasn't been contacted. Now we know why, because Caserio was the man in. They went through the protocol to do, you know, the search and talk to all these coaches, which was, now we know was all garbage. It was all smoke and mirrors. Caserio was coming in, and Caserio has probably already has his coach, if not maybe 2 or 3 guys that, hey, look, you know, let's try to make a deal with this guy, and this guy. And as the general manager, that's his job, and that's who is going to also decide his success as a general manager, who he picks. Okay, so I think he already has his man set up, and everything else is, well, this guy, you know, if we were interested in the enemy, and that's a big favorite here in Houston right now, he would have already been talked to.
Well,
unless,
let's say he's talked, you know, Benjamin's talked to a lot of people, but he hasn't been able to take a whole bunch of meetings, you know, because he is still part of a team that is still playing football.
No, but they opened that up. They opened that up that you know, a couple of weeks ago, where you could talk to people, and you know,
but you don't want to be first. You know, he's right now he's not thinking about where he's going next year.
True.
Right now he's still thinking about, I need to win a Super Bowl. So you don't want to talk to him first, except for maybe like what you said. He's like, okay, I know I want to talk to him. So maybe you had his people, you know, Casero had his people text him saying, hey, I want, after you won the Super Bowl,
he might have already talked to them. They might already know. Yeah. They might already know without, you know.
And I hope that's what's happened. You know, you saved the best interview for last, hopefully, you know, because you got to see what's out there, you know, why not? But the last place you go should be the one you definitely want.
Here's what I like about Caserio. He knows everybody. Everybody knows him. He can deal with anybody. We got the top guy. There's nobody that doesn't know him in the NFL. You don't know him, you're not involved in the NFL. That's very important if you're going to hire a general manager, a guy that can make moves that everybody respects. They respect him. He's with New England for 20 years. So that, you know, I'm very high on him. I'm sorry. Everyone, well, the Patriot way. Forget the Patriot way. This guy's got to come in and make it the Houston way, which will be his way. And I'm sure he's probably sick. And everybody, I was listening to Ted Johnson this morning, you know, talking about like everybody's jumping ship now that, you know, they had a bad season and it's time to leave New England. And, you know, really the coach got stuck with a bad year because guys tired on him. He lost a lot of guys besides losing Brady. Belichick really got the short hand on that one.
They had like 5 defensive all-stars or 3 that didn't play because of COVID.
During COVID. Yeah. So, I mean, nobody expected New England. Well, they were hoping New England would have a good year. But, I mean, when you lose, if you lost 1 or 2, but like you said, Case, 5 defensive players Plus, you lost
Oh well,
you lost
three of
the
them were
GOAT.
probably all-star talent, or two, and then
He'll
maybe
come back.
three were solid
Yeah.
starters. Yeah, they lost a lot of starters just straight out from the get-go.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. We talked about the Patriot way. Yeah, we don't want to be the Patriot way. You know, Watson did mention he wanted discipline and responsibility, which is in the Patriot way.
Right.
But Nick Casero is going to be our GM. He's going to be responsible for putting the people together. So,
Right.
yes, if you're not disciplined, you're not doing your stuff, you're not working hard to go out, get ready, he should have no problem cutting, trading, or doing whatever he has to secure that whatever culture the coach has. The coach is going to be the one that's going to set that culture.
Right.
You know, Nick Casero, we talk about the Patriot way. Here's the continuation of that. It's like, well, he's not Bill O'Brien. He's not Bill Belichick. His job is to build a team. He's got an asset. He's got Deshaun Watson, and he's going to know, like you said, he's had experience. He understands this. Knows everybody in the league.
That's what we needed.
He knows
I'm excited.
I got a piece. Deshaun Watson. It's about right now is putting everything around him to make him successful. And he's done that with someone like, Tom Brady. And Tom Brady's had success, even though, yeah, he got Gronk. He got his safety net. And once he got his safety net, and Julie Edelman, boom, boom, boom. He kept those guys together. It didn't matter who he put in around because they understood it's like, well, just do your jobs, do your route, be disciplined. Yeah. If you're open, he's going to get it to you.
Yeah. I can relate to that because in tennis, years and years ago, when after, my pro days were gone, but playing USTA, playing a high level, I had a guy that was like one of the top players in the world, older guy, and we were playing the nationals. And this guy, I just had to take care of my job. I didn't have to do more, and I was strong at that. I wasn't really on top of my game at that time, but I could cover what I was covering, and we did a lot of winning. Should have won the nationals. So, whereas there's other times if I'm running around trying to do more than what I have to, it wouldn't work. So, when you have when you have pieces in place, you get all the other people to look. You just need to do this. You need to take care of this. One guy on the line. Okay, that's it. And when you have simple things to do for these guys, and you got some all-stars around it, it can work. And that's what Belichick has done for years and years. Although he lost too many pieces this last year, and now he's finally losing coaches. People have been after Caserio for a long time, many offers, years and years. The only thing that's concerning, but in a way not really, because who's the final check on who they hired? They've had 4 or 5 bad seasons of draft picks. And if you want to put one blemish on Caserio coming here, that would probably be it. But guess who the final sign-off is, and everybody knows it, is Belichick. So no matter, even though he might be bringing them players and turns him down, takes them, and then they have a bad draft, I'm not sure, but I would believe that, Caserio, and then he would finally be tired of. Even
if Patriots had bad picks that turned out, it always seemed like they were able to fill those gaps in free agency. They were always able to get the pieces to have a successful team. And that was the main part. NFL draft, the best GM in the world who has all control of the draft can make all the mistakes in the world. You never know fully what's going to happen in the NFL. A quarterback, look what happened to Ryan Leaf. Everyone thought Ryan Leaf was going to be the next big thing. And, that was everybody. It wasn't just San Diego Chargers, GM and coach. It wasn't just them. It happened before with the defensive or an offensive lineman who was up on steroids, and he had like a bodybuilder's, body, and he was huge in college, and played here. He couldn't keep it up here in the NFL.
Who is that? Who are you referring to there?
I can't remember his name. I'll have to look it up and I'll have to share it to you. But I think it was in the 90s, or maybe even earlier. He had a
Couldn't make it in the
weightlifting
NFL, huh?
like body. I mean,
Yeah.
he was
Yeah,
huge.
the big, yeah, but you need guys that can play. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he could play. He had a great college, career, and he had, I think, a little start the career, but came injuries, and then he can't keep back. That's a story for another time. I'll have to look up
Yeah.
his name, but I remember seeing a documentary on him, and it was like, wow, this really happened. But now that we got a GM, I'm glad that we actually got it done fast, because he's got to start work. We got to get that
Yep, he's at
coach.
work.
We got to start working
Now
for the
it was
draft.
reported, but yeah, I don't think he signed. So today there should be a final. So he
I
hasn't, as far
think
as
he
I heard.
might have signed already. I mean,
We're
the
doing work on.
numbers are already there. It's like 6 years, 20 million. So I
Okay,
mean,
but
it
I
sounded
didn't hear
like,
that it was signed. Did you hear it was signed?
I'm
I didn't
assuming
hear
if the
that.
contract, if we're seeing any parts of the
That was,
contract, it's already a
yeah.
signed one. I'm
Okay.
assuming. So
All
if
right.
not, I don't think the Patriots can sue us like they did last time for talking to them. So
Right.
it's
Yeah, I
a
think
done
that's
deal.
off the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now the next thing that has to be done, it has to be done rather quickly. But we just talked about Eric Benjamin. You got to wait for him to win the Super Bowl. You got, for someone like that, you see him as, if it's the coach you want them to be focused on whatever game that they're playing right now. That you don't want them to be focused like, all right, as soon as we lose, I'm coming here to work. That's not the attitude you're looking for in a coach, right? As soon as I'm out this
Yeah.
door, I'm yours. It's like, no, you want someone who, all right, I'm going to talk to you after
Yeah.
I win the Super Bowl.
And
If anything else comes out of his mouth, it's like, well, that's probably not the coach we want. If he's in the playoffs right now, whoever we're looking at is on that team. It's like, okay, I'll talk to you after I win the Super Bowl.
And then, one thing that I like, which I believe is necessary, that the owner has talked with Dallas, talked with Deshaun Watson, and involved him in what he wants too. And I think that's a smart thing, to a certain degree. And they should have done that. The Rockets should have done that with hiring a coach. That's why, to lose both of them, they Harden and Westbrook. If you could have hired a coach that knew both of these guys and said, hey, look, guys, we can work this out. We need to do this, and this. What do you think? Hang around. I'm going to come on in. We're going to make it work like this with a game plan. And they were in on it. You keep both of those guys and you add another piece and you have something. But they didn't do that. They hire a first-year coach. Harden's not going to listen to a first-year coach. Well, anyhow, same thing here. And I think Casterio's smart enough to where, he's going to be interested too. He's got to make sure that's part of his job. Whatever coach you bring in, you just can't bring in a coach. They used to do that with the airlines and where they hire people. And I heard the NBA was doing that, where they do a personality test. And that's how they find whether you fit with these other 4 players in the NBA. And this was over 10 years ago. I heard this. It's a personality test to find out. And then if you take those 2 charts and you put them together, you think they're not doing that nowadays?
Well, of course they are. Of course they are.
But
at the point of the end, when you talk about the NBA, you have some, Harden and Westbrook were both isolation, players, and we got a new scheme that came in that doesn't support ISO, doesn't like ISO, and that's kind of like what
right.
The Texans were at. Anthony Weaver had a new scheme. We went to a zone defense. We had a lot of players that don't like zone defense. One of them was probably Whitney Merciless. That's why, he's a pass rusher.
Oh,
why is he have to play, basically 75% of the time in pass defense? It's like, that's not what he's done. That's not what he does. It's asking a lot for him to do it all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Even though he's done it, but he hasn't done it to the extreme. It's like asking Clowney. If Wesley Merciless wasn't there, Clowney would be in that position. And that's what he'd be in coverage all the time. It's like, that's what we need to have someone come in. Like I said, Nick Serro's here. He understands This is what we have on the team. You can't make super drastic changes. We talked about
Right.
cuts and keeps, last week, and you
Yeah.
can make some changes, but it's not huge. You're going to be able to swing maybe 5 players off your team to get maybe 7, quality players. You're going to have to cut
Mhm.
5 quality people to get 7 quality players, because one of them is a JJ Watt and Wesley Merciless, double digit figure. You can get a quality person for 1 year for $5 million.
Yeah.
We'll worry about next year after that. If we win the Super Bowl, then they'll sign a bigger deal, like we did to, Tyler Matthew. We wanted him, we wanted the Honey Badger longer, but that first year we signed him to a 1-year contract, that prove it deal. Those talented players are out there that still are super talented, but like Cam Newton, he got that 1-year deal. It's like he'll get a deal somewhere. Will it be a starter? Backup for sure. He's definitely worth the backup somewhere. He can still play
Right.
in the league.
Pull out a game or two here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But we need that
you know what his
coach.
numbers were? You know what Cam's numbers were on interception and touchdowns? He had 10 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions.
I mean, that's not super bad because you also got to remember he probably had a lot of rushing touchdowns. He probably had more rushing touchdowns than he had passing touchdowns, if not
Yeah, but
equivalent.
those aren't numbers that you would call him a starting quarterback in the NFL anymore. That's backup.
But also,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't say starter, but
Yeah.
the fact is he was going to a system that's not the system he runs, and a coach that's not used to someone coaching like
No,
that.
but they changed it for him. No, they changed
Well,
the
they
system to
changed
fit
it,
him.
but it's still
Yeah.
not like Belichick had like turn over his page, and this is what I'm going to do if I have a mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
They can change it all they want, but it's not going to be the same as you plug
Right.
him in for Tom Brady. If they had Garoppolo or they had someone who's learned their system, has been in their system, they probably would have had more success.
Wow. Yeah, that boy. Yeah, I wonder about that one. Trading away Garoppolo, but Garoppolo and Brady, they weren't on the same page. I believe that's why he
Well,
had to
but
go.
Belichick wanted to move on from Brady a couple of years ago and went to Garoppolo.
And the owner
Yeah.
probably was friends with Brady and was like, "Well, no, we're going to do it this way. You keep Brady and you get rid of this guy." And
But
Belichick,
it's not like, he's had a huge career in San Francisco. They made it to the Super Bowl, but they made it on the run. They made it on their run game and their defense. But, that's just, well, is it on Garoppolo's, ability, or is it on the fact that, well, he went to a system that was run heavy?
see that it happened again. You know what usually happens, Chase? When you win the Super Bowl, the two teams that are in the Super Bowl, one of those teams, I heard, usually doesn't make the playoffs the next year and have San Francisco.
Well, it's usually because their backup quarterback goes and signs a big contract somewhere else, like Nick Foles, who comes in to win the Super Bowl for your team as a backup quarterback. It goes somewhere else. Or
they thought they had the next coming there, and then Philly's in a big. Yeah, what do you think of the big situation going on there with?
I think Philly's in more desperate situation than we are. I'm glad to be in the situation we are because we got Deshaun Watson. We have that figured out. Unless management hurts it so hard that ruins his relationship with Texas, then I don't think we have to worry about it. Even if he requests us to trade, the amount of picks that we would get for Deshaun Watson, we could get anything we wanted to. The amount of picks that he is worth is huge. Even though it's like it would cost us $21.9 million just to trade him away.
Yeah.
The assets we would get is well beyond that money on our salary cap. But in Eagles, just horrible. What happened, either they were looking for a higher pick. They went from 6 to 9 in from that last loss. That's not going to get you another quarterback. That's not going to get you, anything different basically from 6 to 9.
Right.
I mean, that doesn't even get the difference between Watson and Mahomes. They were like one pick apart, so that difference doesn't make it that much difference. you know, and that was the 12 and 11, you know.
Yeah.
Um, But you
So
had a
talking
young
about Jake,
quarterback. You already had a high paid quarterback that you said, okay, we're moving on from him. Here's the guy that we drafted to replace him. We're in a playoff type game, or could be considered, because the team that they're going against needed that game to win. And you don't play that quarterback to get that experience, that playoff type experience from the get go. Are you saying you don't even trust him to be your quarterback now?
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
just to go up 3 picks, you know, it's not going to get you Trevor Lawrence. You know, 3 picks ain't going to get you Justin Fields that you mentioned a little earlier today.
yeah. Justin Fields, that's a
What were
winner.
they doing?
Talk
You know,
about him
that
going
is
to
just
New
a
England.
mess, you know.
Fields can play ball. Did you see that game? Those touchdown passes. I was watching that, and he can heave the ball. He threw one ball 61 yards in the air, and then he threw another one 55 yards in the air, both for touchdowns. Good arm, you know, and good pocket presence, because both times when he did that, he did a lot more than that. I think he threw 5 or 6 touchdown passes, and 3 of them were like bombs.
And you always got to be worried about quarterbacks, and you know, in college, they always look better than they are. And that's why I'm super glad that we got Watson. You know, even Mahomes, and I believe Mahomes was O'Brien's top pick. He just was gone before he got there. You know, both of those I think was probably his best spotting of talent, you know, from his hands, because he's tried it before and he never found that piece.
Well, it
But
was really our general manager, our old one, Brown, who
Game,
not Game, no, the one that
Alex
his
Smith,
wife, that's it, no,
Smith,
our general manager, who?
Smith,
yeah, Rick Smith, right?
Yeah.
So Rick Smith is the one that was responsible for Deshaun Watson coming here. That was one of his last moves before he left. Yeah.
And I think he's been looking at for another job. But right now, as long as we don't, you know, as Casero doesn't hire like Josh McDaniels, you know, to come here as head coach. No, I don't want another Belichick disciple or anything coming here. Even I heard rumors that we talked to Marvin Lewis. It's like, please tell me, no. The Marvin Lewis did nothing with the Bengals for so long. I do not want to see Marvin Lewis as our head coach.
Right.
You know, but right now, the top 2 picks that look like let's go ahead is Eric Bieniemy and Joe Brady. And Joe Brady, super young, 2019. LSU Tigers had a great passing game. That was his, you know, team that to do that. This year he was on the Carolina Panthers, and he was their offensive coordinator. And they have a game plan that would fit us. You know, they had Teddy Bridgewater back there, and Teddy Bridgewater is Teddy Bridgewater is a knockoff of Watson. You know, he's not as good as Watson. He can do the same stuff that Watson can. He's very elusive. He can be mobile. He can throw a very accurate ball. But you know, Watson can, you know, complete 70% of his passes, go for 4,800 yards, and you know, it's just better. You know,
and Watson's the best long ball thrower in the league.
Well, yeah, I mean, he finished with the 3rd highest completion percentage over 70 and 4,800 over 45,000 yards that combined. He's the 3rd player to do it. The only player other than Watson in the top 5 is Drew Brees. Drew Brees is 1, 2, 4, and 5. Watson's got that little 3rd. So, historic year. We're good on a quarterback. You know, that's the key thing. As long as we don't, you gotta keep them happy at a certain point. You gotta keep them happy. You gotta keep the talent happy. You know, that's always the thing. You gotta keep them happy. We gotta keep them enjoying the game of football and being here. Joe Brady might be a good thing, but I'm still Eric Bieniemy. Let's wait for him to win the Super Bowl. Let's hire him and let's move forward. All right, you're listening to KPFT 90.1. We've been talking football, Texans season over. We're gonna look some good playoff games. We'll discuss who we think we're going to win next week. We'll do a little bit more depth on football.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
before we end the show, and we got about maybe 7 minutes to go, let's talk a little bit about MLB. You know, right now, not a whole lot of stuff is going on in off season, but I want to have a little discussion on the universal DH. Last year, shortened season, you know, the National League went ahead and used it. You know, it's kept pitchers healthy.
Yep.
I think most people liked it and didn't like it. But there's some argument of whether they want to in 2022 to put this into the collective bargaining agreement to actually increase it. This year, it seems like it's not going to be a thing. You know, National League pitchers are going to be
but maybe 2022. Yeah.
It would have to be discussed in the collective bargaining agreement. Yeah. So I'd like to know your opinion. We heard from Dusty Baker, I think last week. He said that he sees the universal DH as kind of preventing younger players branching out and learning other positions. If you're a pitcher, well, you don't have to hit in the major leagues. So why even be a catcher? Why even be an outfielder? Why even be in these positions where you're actually getting the opportunities to learn hitting? You know, and other way around. It's like, well, if I'm 500 pounds, but I can hit the ball like no one else in the world. You know, if I'm Babe Ruth and I'm, you know, I can't run the bases all that well, but I don't have to, well, I can be a DH. You know, what do you feel?
An athlete, you know, how I feel if you're an athlete, I mean, I played 6-7 years of baseball. I was a pitcher, I was a catcher. So, and I played a little bit of third base, and that was about, you know, but I mean, I wanted to play. If I wasn't pitching, I was doing something else. I was usually catching, and that's fun for me. I mean, if baseball would have been boring, I don't think, you know, I have the patience of a fly. If I had been, if I wasn't pitching, I was catching. And very few times I played third base, but imagine if you're pitching and you don't play a game or two. I mean, if you're an athlete and player and you grow up playing baseball, especially these guys that are pitchers, they grow up batting, you know, in Corey League every year. They're baseball players. They've been playing. So when do they get cut out? College, you have to bat, right, as a pitcher. So I mean, you know, you get to the majors, it becomes a different ball game. So I don't know if it would stop that. I mean, you're not going to make it to the major leagues if you're not a good batter. You know, at least on the lower levels.
I mean, you look at Prince Fielder. Prince Fielder was a heftier man, you know.
Yeah.
But he was able to bat. You know, there's a lot of, you know, Kirby Puckett, I remember not being a skinny man. I mean, he had sprinting speed, you know. But yeah, he couldn't strike the guy out.
No. I mean, no.
Look at Bartolo Colon. I mean, Bartolo Colon wasn't a healthy man, but he pitched so well.
I wasn't, you know, he wasn't the team I was rooting for, but I'm like, this guy, he's going to hit the ball, man. It's just a matter of he's going to hit it in the gap or he's going to hit it to somebody. But he's going to make contact. He sees it.
So you'd rather them not have the universal DH?
No, you know, I believe in the universal DH because it's just not fair when you go through a season and then, you know, you meet it and you're not used to doing that. So your DHs aren't used to being in that position like the other team is. Who has the advantage there? Even though in the World Series, you do split it. So some days, you know, they have to bat and other days they don't. And you go back to tradition, everything. You want to keep the tradition of the game like that. So it really depends on who the big guys are in power, whether they stay traditionalists. But there's one thing for sure, it'll change one day. And there's one inevitable thing.
I would say I would like to have it all. But real quick before we move on finally, how about getting rid of it altogether, getting rid of DH altogether? Would you rather have no one have the DH than everybody have the DH?
Well, the pitchers, they can't bat. That would be an automatic out. You're going to take away from the offense, and everybody, you know, if you want to.
I mean, it's been like that. It's been like that the National League for forever. Well, what's
Yeah.
what's the difference? There's
Yeah.
some that can. San Francisco, what,
Yeah.
Bud Meyer? What, I can't even
Yeah.
remember his
He's
name,
hitting it.
but he
Yeah.
wants to hit, I mean, Rick Ankiel, they wanted to hit.
Right.
I'd rather everyone have it. Yeah, I'd rather not have the pitchers pitch. I'd rather see some offense.
Yeah.
All right.
So
So real quickly, I know we've been talking about having a tennis special, and hopefully next week, maybe
yeah,
2 weeks, we'll
good.
have a start of the year tennis special out that we'll be posting on your Facebook page, on our Facebook
Right. Got
page.
the Australian Open starting up here.
Yeah, we got about a month to go. We got it February 8th.
Yeah.
So it'll be exciting.
Yeah. That's right. They pushed it
John,
back.
you mentioned that we were talking to a boxer that we're hoping to
Yeah.
have an interview coming up here, next week. If anything,
Friend of
the
mine,
following week after that.
maybe we can get him on a special and talk to this boxer who was involved in a pro fight, and the other guy was the up and coming guy, and the guy got cut from a punch, and it was a 4-round pro fight, and they wound up stopping it, but they broke the rules, and then they gave the fight to the guy that they had to stop the fight for. But if you read the rules, a headbutt has to cause the cut, and what caused the cut wasn't a headbutt that broke the cut more open. Well, anyhow, McDonald's his name, and he was fighting a Houston guy, and so maybe we'll do a little special on this because one of his sparring partners, who's also a trainer, friend of mine, Charlie, will have him on and talk to him, and hopefully talk to McDonald. We might even get the other boxer on and talk to him because they're trying to get a rematch for this match. But I like boxing. I know some pro boxing, and it's big now. It's back.
Yeah, we got a good boxing community here in Houston. I think everyone will enjoy that. We'll keep people informed on your Facebook page.
All right. Yep.
Let's real quickly hit that.
JohnFosterTennis.com, and then Facebook, John Foster Tennis, Instagram, Vimeo, YouTube. Check it out. Subscribe. Got some stuff on there. Films by David and Black Gold Production, BG Production.
Yep. And if you want to contact our show, we have a email address right here, sportstalk@bgpstudio.com. And, we'll be able to get you feedback. If you want to be part of the show, we can make that happen. Right. Like said, keep informed on John's Facebook page. He's going to keep you informed on that interview that we're going to have with McDonald. You've been listening to KPFT 90.1. And remember, always be kind and be safe. Have a great weekend. And go Rockets.
See you next week.